Right then, it's time. Final Fantasy VII, Ever Crisis, The First Soldier, Episode 2, Chapter 5. I nearly got through it. I was so close to getting through it. But that's where we're up to today. We have got Chapter 5 of Episode 2 of The First Soldier, and some stuff goes down. Some stuff goes down, some pretty obvious stuff goes down, but let's jump straight into it. Like the video, sub future content, but let's do this. So, in the previous chapter, we had all of the stuff that happened with this vision of Glenn that's appearing to Sephiroth, and it was just very much more of Sephiroth, chasing down the Masamune. We had some stuff with visions for Angeal, with the Buster Sword, and there was that suggestion laid out there again that the Buster Sword might actually be something a little bit more special than we think it is, and we're going to get a little bit more of that in this chapter, so keep an eye out for that. And then obviously we had the stuff with Sephiroth, him remembering the times with Glenn and Matt and Lucia and Rose and all of those events that happened in Rodor and after Rodor as well. And we start chapter 5 with a little bit of an interesting bit from Bachman. And Bachman's talking about, the images that they've all seen while they've been here, the things that have kind of led them down this path and how it must be affecting them. And it's interesting that Bachman's talking about this, because I would fully expect these images to be affecting Sephiroth and Angeal, but then the fact that it's affecting Bachman suggests that he's already being affected by the Jenova influence in this area, and we will see more of that in the next chapter. But sticking to this chapter for now, it's definitely that feeling there that Bachman is being affected by this place, not just seeing the visions that are going on around him on the outside, but with his thoughts. So definitely something to watch for. Now, after these musings from Bachman, we find the group continuing through this illusory version of what the area used to look like. And Sephiroth gets a little bit defensive and he talks about how he's not living in the past, and Angeal's very much like, yeah, no, you are you definitely care about what happened back then, I'm not believing you. And interestingly, Alissa steps in then and says, this is what happens. People come into your life and people leave your life. You had to lose them, but now you've met me. And given the thoughts that I've already been having this whole episode about this being some sort of Jenova manipulation, then that's quite interesting, because it's suggesting to Sephiroth, oh, don't worry about real people, embrace Jenova. Do you know what I mean? And we're seeing the building of that psyche and that mindset of Sephiroth, where the only thing that matters is his mother. It's very interesting. The conversation continues anyway, talking about how, the past has made Sephiroth what he is, but he shouldn't be stuck in it, he shouldn't dwell on it. And even Angeal then comes back in and reinforces that after Sephiroth has said, what have I got to look forwards to? And Angeal's like, well, you've got the sword. Focus on that for now. Focus on the sword, get it, do the thing, move on. So there's a lot of emotional support going on for Sephiroth in this moment, try to keep him together. Everyone can kind of identify that he's not right and that he's quite unstable at the minute, and you don't really want an unstable Sephiroth knocking about, we've seen how that goes. So the party are doing the best, and obviously Alissa is manipulating the situation to Alissa's benefit. We then get a cheeky little flashback to the events of Rodor with Glenn, Matt and Lucia, and I am genuinely a little bit suspicious of this scene, and I don't think I've got any reason to be, because I'm pretty sure there is a conversation. I'm not sure. Is there a conversation? So in the Rodor sections of the story, I don't think the conversation of a sword comes up. I'm struggling to remember the sword conversation. Let me know in the comments if you remember a sword conversation happening in Rodor, because I don't think it did in-game. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen and it's not a legit conversation. It could just be a perfectly legitimate conversation. I just have this tingling suspicion that this could be an altered memory. And in the process of what's been going on here, Sephiroth's memories have already begun to be altered by Jenova, with the goal obviously being for Sephiroth to get the Masamune. And Sephiroth puts a lot of stock in, maybe not so much what Matt and Lucia think, but what Glenn thinks. And because Glenn ends up in this little flashback saying, yeah, you've just not found the right sword yet. And then Sephiroth immediately is like, well, my life's just begun now, I've got the Masamune. It's like his memories have kind of rewritten themselves a little bit in order to make him singularly focused on the sword. But I could be reaching here. This could be a legitimate scene. I can't remember if it happened or not. I don't think it did. And yeah, it feels very sus, but one thing that I would expect if we were seeing an altered memory would be some sort of hint of Jenova's influence. You know, like that purple edging that we've been getting on a lot of the scenes that have been to do with Jenova. So yeah, we're not seeing that right now. So maybe not. Maybe it's a reach, but it's a thought. Anyway, after this, Sephiroth says, like, you know, these memories are precious to him and he doesn't want to cut them loose. And Angeal says, like, oh, well, leave some space in your memories for me. And it's like, oh, bless him. You know, cute little moment between Angeal and Sephiroth. Little baby killing machines, bless him. But then Alissa ruins it by popping in with a me too. And it's like, yeah, we know you want Sephiroth's memories, mate. We know you do. Anyway, moving on. The group continues through this area, with Sephiroth being baited by the voice of Glenn. Bachman's a little bit like, what, really? We're carrying on? We're actually carrying on? So, you know, Bachman knows he's in trouble, the poor guy. But, you know, is what it is at this point. And then Alissa and Angeal have a little bit of a conversation where it's the one that we saw in the trailers from Alissa, where she says, you know, the moment Sephiroth takes that sword in hand, the world is going to change. And Angeal's like, well, really? You think so? And Alyssa's a bit, we'll see. You know, not completely 100%, but we'll see. And if we're looking at Alissa as this Jenova figure, then it's almost like there's a little bit of doubt almost. Like, maybe it'll work. Maybe it'll be fine. And there are a few interesting questions to talk about with this Jenova-Alissa situation. We'll get to it. We will get to it. When it happens, we'll get to it. But anyway, everyone moves on, follows Sephiroth. And as they're moving through the area, they comment on how beautiful it is. We get a little bit of conversation about how this is what Igara must have looked like before everything happened in the past. And obviously this is what Wutai was inspired by. And that makes sense. Alissa makes a little bit of an offhand comment at the end of it, talking about how, oh, it shows how fondly they remembered it. Not sure if that's Alissa just basically, you know, commenting on it, or if she's trying to do something and manipulate Sephiroth a little bit. I'll let that one slide. But we move on a little bit further and Sephiroth starts having a little bit of a flashback, questioning whether or not our memories become more beautiful over time. Or do we idealize them maybe? Something like that. And he goes back again to Rodor, and he's remembering that moment in the helicopter after the fall of Rodor, essentially. And it's a very short flashback, but it's more focused on what Sephiroth says after it, which is that each time he remembers it, the memory becomes more vivid. And I'm wondering if that's meant to be an indicator again that Jenova is starting to impact on Sephiroth's memories more and more the longer he's here. Because yes, he's already got Jenova going on inside him, but being exposed to such a high level of Jenova, a concentration of Jenova, maybe it accelerates things. It's not only that, it's the whole thing with Jenova anyway that I've already gone over in the past, where it's when people are in some sort of emotional turmoil, that's when Jenova impacts them. And Sephiroth is clearly in emotional turmoil about the events of Rodor. Like 100% unquestionable. He is emotionally affected by A, what happened in Rodor, and B, the fact that he's now on his own again, and Glenn and Matt and Lucia are gone. And we'll talk about that later, but yeah, this is the start of it happening. Sephiroth's a little bit shaky psychologically, his mental health's not doing the best. Boom, Jenova starts getting him. And Angeal says as much in the next section where he says, you know, we've been walking through these illusions for so long, there's no saying what impact this is going to have on not only our bodies, but our minds as well. Foreshadowing. But he's right. You know, he's 100% right. And I'm starting to feel like one of the main things that we're going to get out of this chapter, well, this episode 2, is Sephiroth's beginning slip into being under the control of Jenova to a certain degree. Because, you know, the emotional turmoil's there. And obviously Alissa tries to downplay it again. She says, oh, it's just like being in VR training. There's no problems. Let's just enjoy the scenery. And that causes Angeal to have a little flashback back to when he was younger. You know, he's out there picking apples with his dad. and he's remembering what he would view as lovely scenery. And this flashback's pretty much just to show the difference, between Angeal and Sephiroth. Because, there's an obvious dichotomy there. Angeal has this strong family unit that's together and nurtures him and helps him and teaches him lessons, and it shows why he was much more resistant to Jenova than Sephiroth was. The corruption from Jenova. He's much more resistant to that, and it is because he's much more emotionally stable and much more emotionally grounded, whereas Sephiroth isn't. And it's not until Angeal loses faith in those sort of things that we see him go a bit funny in Crisis Core. But at this point, he's still strong. And I genuinely feel like these little cutscenes for Angeal are to show us that. There's a very interesting moment at the end of it, though, where he's talking about holding on to his hopes and dreams, and Angeal needing to do that, and how that's what will form the world around him. And if they change or he changes, the world will change too. And come on, man. I know that's not what's happening here, but come on, man. Or is it? Is it what's happening here? I don't know. No, it's not what's happening here, but they're just dangling that carrot, I think. I think this is a carrot dangle, like, oh, worlds, oh, we said worlds, oh, worlds changing based on thoughts, oh, and, that sort of thing. But anyway, that's the end of that flashback. Interesting one, and definitely meant to, like I say, show that difference between Angeal and Sephiroth, because, all of Sephiroth's formative memories seem to be in a lab, which isn't the best. After the flashback, though, we get a little bit of sword conversation, where Sephiroth's like, oh, you seem to prefer your sword over the scenery, and Angeal's like, yeah, duh. Obviously. Have you only just noticed? And I don't know, are we setting up some Buster Sword stuff maybe? I think we might be setting up some Buster Sword stuff. Like, it's absorbed these hopes and dreams, and that kind of gives it an additional layer of power, in the same way that the Masamune has been imbued with this hatred and this Jenova essence. I'm just going off what I'm seeing. That's what it feels like to me. But just after this, Sephiroth's like, wait a minute, I've seen this place before. And it takes us back to the images that Matt showed Sephiroth. So after the Rodor incident, and we've already seen this flashback, but after the Rodor incident, they're all in that room, Rifu's with them, and Matt's talking about what they could do next. And it's a picture of this area that we are in right now. And this makes me ask a couple of questions. Like, was that memory already altered? Because we didn't see that scene fresh. We saw a flashback of it, if I remember correctly. We saw Sephiroth remembering that scene. So could it be that Jenova's already kind of been at work somehow? Like, was that scene even real? Or was it just an altered memory all along? Or was there something going on the Glenn, Matt and Lucia side of things? And maybe they've been fed that image by someone who's Jenova affected or something like that. It just feels very convenient that this message has happened prior to them coming here, and now all of this other stuff is going on. We've got Glenn, Matt and Lucia visions popping up. We've got these voices telling Sephiroth where to go, and now we see an image that we've only seen in a memory from Sephiroth. I'm sus. I'm sus of Jenova, obviously. But, in this instance, I feel like something's maybe already been done. Let me know what you're thinking about this. But the flashback continues, and we see Sephiroth just gradually becoming alone. We see first Glenn, Matt and Lucia, after they've been taken to be investigated, they then desert, and Sephiroth's waiting for them with Rifu, and then Sephiroth comes back one day, and Rifu's gone. And while Sephiroth's looking to find, where's Rifu? Is he hiding? Is he gone? A couple of soldiers go past and they talk about Glenn, Matt and Lucia deserting, and then that's when Sephiroth realises, like, oh, they've left me. And it's a heartbreaking little moment. Poor little baby Sephiroth. Poor little baby killing machine. But, yeah, at this point then Sephiroth kind of doubles down on his training, seemingly, and focuses a lot more. Essentially using the pain and the anger and the hurt that he's suffered to fuel these improvements in his strength and his power. And it's setting up this mindset of Sephiroth. Like, everything that we're seeing in these episodes, in these chapters, is setting up this mindset of Sephiroth of being determined, singular focused, ruthless, Do you know what I mean? All of these things are being set up now, and I kind of love it. I kind of love it. The voices continue to beckon Sephiroth deeper and deeper into whatever this area is, and Bachman suggests that, you know, maybe we could take a break, have a little rest, you know, Sephiroth will be fine. And Alissa agrees, like, yeah, we don't want to get in Sephiroth's way. But Angeal's like, no, even Sephiroth isn't safe here. We need to be with him, we need to back him up. And they both immediately cave. Alissa's like, yeah, true, I don't want to miss it. And Bachman's like, yeah, true, I want to get some footage. So it's a weird moment, that. I don't know what's happening there. I'm a little bit confused. Are we suggesting that Alissa was going along with Bachman at first, but then I don't know. I'm confused by that. Like, even Angeal's confused by it. The two of them walk off, and he's just stood there like, what? But Angeal knows what's happening. He muses, like, if we keep going, it's only going to get worse. But at the same time, I know that Sephiroth is trapped in a memory, in a nightmare, like I was. So nothing that I say is going to be able to pull him out of that, because Angeal has experienced this with all of the imagery with his dad kind of turning on him and, you know, being a bit of a dick. And Angeal fought through that and resisted it. And from that point on, Angeal's been fine. And that feels like that was Jenova's attempt at breaking him down, and he resisted it because obviously Angeal's got his shit together. We've gone over this, but Sephiroth's stuck in that memory now, and it's just going to keep going and keep going and keep going, and Angeal doesn't really know what to do, and obviously reverts to what he knows, which is hopes, dreams, honor. You know, he reiterates that mantra to himself, essentially, in order to keep himself together so that he can help Sephiroth. But we finally reach another one of these choices. So we had the choice previously with Matt and Lucia, and now we've got a choice between Glenn and Rosen. And we've got those two hands coming out through the wall, we've got the whole purple imagery, this is some Jenova stuff going on, and we go back to flashbacks. And this is something that happens a fair bit now, I think. It starts to pick up, we get a little bit more flashbacky stuff, you know, Sephiroth looking back at things. I feel like these are accurate flashbacks. I've not checked them, you know, to see if there are any differences between the events that we saw and the flashback now. That might be worth checking at some point, but for now we'll keep on moving. So yeah, we've got the choice between Glenn and Rosen, and we get the flashback of that scene between Sephiroth and Rosen, you know, the CGI one where he's just about to kill him basically from the Rodor episode, and Sephiroth realises that the choice is pointless, but the voice that keeps talking to him tells him that it's his destiny and he has to choose. He has to choose one of them. So, you know, I obviously chose to save Glenn. Consistency is key, like I say. We end up in another fight with a Jenova abomination type thing, beat it up, and then at the end of it, basically Sephiroth gets approval. And interestingly, they tell him to listen to the blade and how it will take away difficult choices from him and guide him, which is, you know, a little bit weird, a little bit Jenova-y. And as Sephiroth goes off to get the sword, Angeal's a little bit like, whoa. Should we talk about this? You know, the sword taking away your decisions or making it so you don't have to make decisions. And Alissa's like, no, don't worry about that. We'll talk about it later. We'll have a little chit chat about that later. Let's go get the sword. Should we go get the sword? Sword? And everyone leaves to get the sword. But Angeal definitely has a problem with this. And he's not wrong, to be fair. He's not wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, the Buster Sword doesn't whisper to him things to do or anything like that. And that seems to be the suggestion that that's what the Masamune is going to do, so it's not the best situation. But that is the end of Chapter 5 of The First Soldier. Because, yeah, we don't get any little flashback memories like we've been getting at the end of every other chapter. None of that. And this is something that we're going to talk about in a later video. Basically, I've got 4 videos that I'm doing in one go pretty much, so they're going to go up quite quickly. We've got this one, we've got the Chapter 6 breakdown, I'm going to try and get that done tomorrow. Then we've got the event, the special event, I'm going to try and get that done quickly as well. I might try and squeeze that out today if I can. And then I just generally want to have a chat about The First Soldier. So that's the end of this one. In general, all things that I kind of expected. We're doubling down on the whole Sephiroth's memories being affected kind of thing, and we're doubling down on the whole Angeal had a different life and therefore is more resilient against these memories being affected and this doubt being cast upon his values, basically, whereas Sephiroth's a mess. Sephiroth is in a real bad state because of the whole events of Rodor and Glenmat and Lucia and losing them and being alone again, because he finally opened himself up and got some friends, and then they're gone. And they left him. And I think that's the thing that does it the most. The fact that they came back, got Rifu, and left. And there's a perfectly good reason for that. They couldn't take Sephiroth. Imagine how ludicrous it would have been for him if they'd have took Sephiroth. Shinra would have just immediately got, no, give him back. No, we spent a lot of money on him. We used all of the alien DNA on him. Give him back. Give him back right now. That's how it would go. So it made sense for them not to take Sephiroth. Plus, Sephiroth's a questionable entity in a lot of ways. You still don't know 100% if he's on Glenmat and Lucia's side. I'm pretty sure he is, but you don't know 100%. So there's a little bit of doubt there from how he was when they first met him. And it's just all built up and led to this broken, sad Sephiroth. And we all know who loves broken, sad people, and it's Jenova. So yeah, that's that one. Let me know what you're thinking about this episode in the comments below. We'll get rolling with chapter 6 as soon as possible. Yeah. Like, sub, share, do the things, but more importantly than all of that, have a great day.